Imagine you're in a conversation. You recently got back from a holiday that you loved, you're at a party and you start talking with someone about your trip. You had such a great time and you have so much to say about the scenery and the food and the people that you met, but the person that you're talking to just keeps changing the topic. All they seem to want to talk about is their next vacation. After a few minutes you feel pretty frustrated and you're tired of the conversation. You probably move on and talk with somebody else, right? One of the most common things that I see people doing in conversations that stops them from turning out the way they would like is that they talk about themselves instead of being curious about the other person. Now I know you've probably heard it before, but have you ever stopped to ask yourself why this happens? You see, often the people who worry about being boring in conversations are actually some of the most thoughtful, considerate people that I've met. The very fact that they're concerned about it suggests that. The problem isn't that they don't care about other people. Instead, it's this. Caring doesn't automatically translate into showing it in conversation. And there's one specific thing that most of them are doing that accidentally sends the wrong signal. If any of this felt familiar, either side of it, you're exactly who this video is for. Hi, I'm Greg. And on this channel we work on the one thing that changes every conversation you'll ever have. Not just what you say, but how present you are when you say it. So in my last video I talked about what happens when you perform a conversation instead of having one. Today I want to look at the same idea from a completely different angle. Not what it does to you, but what it does to the person that you're talking to. One of the biggest mistakes that you can make in a conversation is talking about yourself when you should be curious about them. More specifically, and this is the thing that surprises people, it's not that they talk too much about themselves deliberately, it's that they talk about themselves as a defense mechanism. The defense is an attempt to deal with the fear of asking questions that might seem intrusive or of silences that might seem awkward. They're thinking that the other person will find them boring if they don't have something interesting to say, or ask about something, especially if it's someone with whom they want to leave a good impression. They get caught up in an inner monologue that sounds something like this.
Why did I just say that? Was that too personal? Did I just make this weird? Say something, just say anything, just fill the silence. I really need to say something or they're going to think I'm boring. Maybe if I just talk a bit, I can fix the impression I just made?
Why do we do this? We fill conversational space with self-disclosure because it feels safer than curiosity, not because we're self-absorbed. The result from the outside is that we can appear uninterested in the person, which is exactly the opposite of what we want to convey. Listening is so essential. These are two sides of the same coin. Think about it. You're unlikely to feel curious about someone if you're not listening. Listening is attention, and attention is both the driver of and is driven by curiosity. It snowballs, and before you know it, you're really interested in what they're saying. Here's what that conversation might look like. Hey, you went on holiday recently, right? How was it?
Yes, it was great.
You went to Italy, right?
I loved it, especially Florence.
I thought about going to Florence, but it just seems so expensive.
There's just so many incredible works of art and so many beautiful buildings.
I was like, I'd rather go somewhere where my money goes further, you know?
But not everything is expensive.
Have you ever been to Spain? That can be a lot cheaper.
No, I haven't.
I was thinking about planning a trip there next year. But I'm still thinking about where I'd like to go. It's been so long since I've been on a real holiday. And here's what it might look like if it were handled differently and driven by more genuine curiosity. Hey, you went on holiday recently, right? How was it?
Yes, it was great.
You went to Italy, right?
Yes, I loved it, especially Florence.
What did you love the most about it?
There's just so much art, you know. I mean, so many beautiful buildings.
Anything that really stood out to you?
Well, I do love art, so the Uffizi was incredible. There's just so many masterpieces there.
Yeah, I guess that's Italy, yeah. Did you go anywhere else?
Oh, we went to Rome and Venice too.
Great. What did you think of Venice?
I thought it was magnificent, especially the Grand Canal. I mean, have you seen it?
Now, I've exaggerated the difference between those just to highlight the point. In practice, it's often much more subtle and unconscious, driven by self-defense, not a need to be the center of attention. I spent years doing exactly what that first person was doing in the conversation, only I didn't know it. You know, when I was younger, a teenager, I remember so wanting to connect with people on topics that I was interested in, such as music, that when I got a hint that they were interested in it, I went into an avalanche of information about questions about music. I don't think this was because I was trying to show off, how much I knew about the topic, but rather I just wanted to convey what it meant to me and how much I'd love to talk more about it. Of course, the effect was usually that they felt a bit overwhelmed and the conversation fizzled before it had even begun. If I had instead taken maybe more of a directly curious interest in what they were saying, my responses and my questions could have matched their interest, and we could have had a much more enjoyable conversation for both of us, building our relationship at the same time. This is why curiosity is not just a technique, but it's a fundamentally different orientation towards other people. And most people think curiosity is something that you either have or don't have, but it can be learned. Genuine curiosity is a behavior, it's a practice, an attitude, a mindset. It's not a personality trait. People you may think of as very curious people have developed that as an attitude and a behavior, and it's become so part and parcel of their identity that you wouldn't be able to tell whether they had learned it or whether they were born with it. But in fact, curiosity is something that absolutely everyone is born with. Think about any baby that you've ever watched. They're endlessly curious. Watch any baby discovering something new and you will see the most natural learner in the world. That capacity doesn't just disappear, it just gets buried. For some reason, many of us forget as we grow into adults. The good news is that it can be relearned. These are decisions that you can make. You can decide to be interested in someone, ask a question, and then actually listen to the answer, rather than preparing your response and follow the thread of what they say, rather than redirecting to your own experience. This is the key point to remember. This is a skill, not a character trait, and that distinction is actually quite liberating. If you like, you could play a little game with yourself. Imagine that you've been given a task of finding out 3 interesting things about someone, whether someone you know already or someone new. When you have your conversation with them, look for those things that you can discover and remember. If you're able to tell another person 3 interesting things that you found out, well, then you succeeded. If you practice this for a bit, you might find something we could call the curiosity switch happening. This is a moment in a conversation when you stop thinking about what you have to say next and you start genuinely wondering about the other person. You know the switches happen when you don't hear a voice in your head urging you to say something anymore, but instead you genuinely want to hear more about the other person. The next words to naturally come out of your mouth encourage them to keep going. And this isn't only psychological, it's also neurological. When the brain shifts from perceiving something as a threat to a challenge instead, it engages reward pathways and literally makes the experience feel more enjoyable. When you've done this enough times, you'll stop noticing that moment and it will simply become how you are in conversations. Now you might be thinking, but how can I show them I'm curious? What questions can I ask? What if I don't know much about what they're talking about? Well, here's the thing. You don't need to know much about what they're talking about beforehand if you actually listen to them carefully. While specialist or general knowledge can be useful in conversations and can sometimes impress people if it's on a topic that they're interested in, it's not actually necessary. What is necessary is to listen and to ask questions directly related to what the other person has said. There's a simple framework called the Ford method that gives you a structure to fall back on when you genuinely don't know where to take the conversation. This helps you to cycle through topics such as family, occupation, recreation, dreams, and listening for what resonates with them. Maybe they don't like to talk about work, but they get excited when they talk about trail running or their children's experiences at school. Maybe they're really engaged with what they're working on and like talking about that. This isn't about a specific set of question prompts, right? But rather broad topics that you can move between to keep the conversation alive and demonstrate your curiosity about their life. So on that note, another thing I often hear is that people are afraid of asking questions because they don't want to appear ignorant or give a bad impression. But your fears about their expectations of you really shouldn't influence your curiosity. They don't expect you to be the most entertaining or brilliant person they've ever met. They'll most likely have very few expectations, and those will only form as you speak with them. If you build rapport with them, their expectations will be that that rapport continues. If you talk at them and you don't show genuine interest in them, that will be the expectation that forms, regardless of your intention. But genuine curiosity is almost always appreciated. So if you found today's video useful, and I hope that you did, the best thing that you can do is to put these ideas into practice. I'm really not sharing this for you to contemplate them or form abstractions about them. This is designed to be practical. So I put together a free cheat sheet that gives you exactly what to say in 7 different situations: networking, first dates, job interviews, those moments when social anxiety kicks in, so that you always have a starting point even when your mind goes blank. It also gives you a summary of how to use the Ford technique that I mentioned earlier. It's free, it's phone friendly, and the link is in the description below. And if you do want to go deeper than a video can take you, to work on your specific situation with someone who can actually hear and respond to you, I offer one-on-one coaching sessions where that's exactly what we do. The link for that is below too. If you found this useful, subscribing means you'll see the next one, and there's a lot more where this came from. I'll see you there. Bye for now.